Dryden. We're here this morning to dedicate this HL-10 lifting body that you see behind me to the people of Dryden, the people who make this the greatest place in the world to conduct flight research and to test advanced aerospace vehicles. This vehicle and its ceremony represents the first in what will be a long series of vehicle displays that will be here at Dryden, located in the field to my left here, as we are able to prepare sites and put the vehicles on public display. Lifting bodies, or flying bathtubs as they were often referred to, were the direct predecessors of the space shuttle. The research conducted with these unique little aircraft proved that blunt-shaped lifting vehicles could, upon re-entry from space and through careful energy management, successfully land on a runway. The HL-10 first flew on December 22nd, 1966, and was in many ways the most interesting of the lifting bodies. These included the M2s, the X-24A, and the X-24B. The HL-10 flew higher, 90,303 feet, and faster, Mach 1.86, than all the other lifting bodies. In those earlier days of flight tests, higher and faster was the name of the game and was synonymous with Edwards and the NACA. The lifting body program perhaps exemplified the best in our innovativeness and our ability to conduct cooperative or joint programs with DoD and industry. The first lifting body, the plywood M2F1, was actually built in-house behind a curtain and at very low cost. Having proven the concept with that vehicle, we went on to fly the Ames-designed M2F2, the Langley-designed HL-10, both of which were built by Northrop, and the Martin-built X-24A and X-24B. Of course, the lifting bodies were part of a long series of programs we and the Air Force conducted jointly. Former HL-10 pilots Bruce Peterson and Bill Dana are here with us today. Bill is still flying as a research pilot and is presently the chief pilot here at NASA Dryden. They'll be making some comments later in the program. Unfortunately, Pete Hoig, Jerry Gentry, and John Mankey were unable to be here. However, Jerry Gentry and Pete Hoig did send letters, and I will share those with you during the pilot comment time. As most of you know, we are also a part of Edwards Air Force Base. The cooperative spirit, which I just mentioned, is still alive and well, and we are pleased to have the AFFTC Vice Commander, Colonel John Hoffman, the 6510 Test Wing Commander, Colonel Vern Saxon, and the Base Commander, Colonel John Cunningham, here with us. At this time, I would like to ask Colonel Hoffman to say a few words. John?
Thank you, Ted. Good morning. Well, I think it's only fitting that we share in this event here this morning with the dedication of the HL-10. As Ted just pointed out, we have a long and rich history of joint cooperative programs together in flight research. There have been a number of Air Force pilots involved with the lifting body programs over the years, as well as the NASA pilots. And I think I speak for everybody in the blue suit, that it's fitting, perfectly fitting, that this particular vehicle have its home right here at Edwards Air Force Base, and particularly here at the Dryden Center. We learned much valuable information through the course of the lifting body programs, all the way through the X-24 that led into the shuttle program. And I think most significantly, it proved that we can bring a vehicle back from space or close to it and put it on a runway very precisely. As a personal note, it's very rewarding for me to be here and share in this ceremony this morning, in that I had some involvement right at the tail end of the lifting body program as a primary chase pilot and a backup on the X-24B to our late Mike Love. And another interesting note, Pete Hoig, who was mentioned as one of the pilots on the HL-10, was also a predecessor in the position that I hold at the moment as the vice commander. So maybe there's hope yet. If we keep building some more lifting bodies, I might get an opportunity. We're very delighted to share in this event with you. It's a particular tribute, I think, to the people here at the Dryden Center to have brought this program along, and now they'll be able to share in a wonderful memory of it for some time to come. Thanks.
Thank you, Colonel Hoffman. The biggest lifting body of all is yet to come. I'm, of course, referring to the National Aerospace Plane Program, which is currently underway. Well, we could not fly these exotic vehicles without the dedication of our contractors and manufacturers who, in fact, help make up the aerospace team. As I said earlier, the HL-10 and the M2s were built by the Northrop Corporation. And those of us who are fortunate enough to work out here see that Northrop is still building unusual aircraft, and I am referring to the B-2, which flies out of Edwards. At this time, I would like to introduce John McTeague, better known as Tiger McTeague, who is now with Northrop, but at the time was NASA's project manager on the HL-10. And I think it's significant to note that John's enthusiasm and his ingenuity added immeasurably to the success of the lifting body program here at Edwards and at NASA. John?
I'm hiding over here.
Sorry.
Well, Nancy contacted me and asked me to say something on behalf of Northrop. I thought that was a little inappropriate because all my experience with lifting bodies obviously was involved with NASA. So I took the task on in a little different approach, and I promised to keep it short. And that was to talk about management. Different time, different place, but the management system we used back then can just as effectively be used now if our people in the higher places at headquarters or even at the center levels will take on the task of allowing people to do their job. And really, headquarters in the form of Fred DeMeritt and the center director in the form of Paul Bickle delegated the authority down to me as the program manager to see that these vehicles were built. Northrop, in turn, took on and the job of building the airplane with a very simplified contract. Now, we made the specs as simple as we could, and we're going to rely upon our people, you sitting out in the audience and some who are not here, as individuals responsible for your functional areas to get the airplane we wanted here in a flight-worthy condition. People were made ultimately aware of their responsibility and their authority. They had to carry out that responsibility. So we had people sitting opposite the contractor, Northrop. Northrop put together what they called a Joint Action Management System in conjunction with NASA, which was really jammed to push the thing on through. And Fred DeMeritt allowed us to work with the contractor so that Ralph Hakes, on the side of the contractor, and myself representing the government, could make decisions for both manpower and money right on the spot to get things changed. Bruce Peterson happened to mention to me the other day that the cockpit was designed with probably a total of 5 trips for the HL-10 down to the contractor. One, to lay out what they liked, wanted to have done. 2 to review a proposal, 3 to look at a mock-up. When it got all through, it was done by a selected number of people who with the responsibility for that cockpit, who were going to be sitting in it. It wasn't done by committees. Today, we probably have to have 5 committees at least, and probably have to meet about 100 times before a cockpit could be designed. That cost. Our specs were so simple that Paul Bickle once told a contractor, if you can draw it on a piece of aluminum and cut it and put it in his airplane, we'll accept it. Well, as it turned out, Northrop used high-quality people, people with at least 20 years' experience, who were used to using mil specs and worked and built this airplane to mil specs, but weren't required by the contract to do so. We only required on a contractor to be able to make the vehicle work to a specified area of small regime of flight testing. It didn't cover the whole gamut the mil specs cover nowadays. So I think the thing I'm trying to say is we have to delegate full authority down to people, make sure the people know that they have that responsibility, and then let the people and individuals do it. Well, he just lost part of his speech, but other than that, he'd be able to milk that at all. Let the people get their job done. As an interest, these 2 vehicles were built in series, the M2 first and the HL10, in 19 and a half months from the time the contract was initiated till the second one rolled out the door. Total cost for 2 supersonic airplanes at essentially high altitude capabilities and Mach number 1.8 capabilities was under $4 million. Even in that day and age, that was about 1/3 to 1/4 the price people were estimating to do the same thing. So I think the word and the thing I'm trying to leave with people are, let's get back to allowing people to do their jobs, monitor results, not procedures, and you'll have more airplanes like this sitting out in the display. Thank you.
We all know the wind doesn't blow out here, so that's why these sheets aren't tied down. Well, I think John's comments are good and appropriate. I think all of us who work in this business would prefer to see simpler ways of doing things, and if everybody would get together and agree to that, we could probably do it, John. We've also been fortunate over the years to have the support of the local communities here in our efforts, and this morning I would like to take just a minute to recognize the Mayor of California City, Mr. Lou Logue, and thank him for coming and being with us today. Now I'd like to ask the pilots to say a few words. And first I would like to introduce Bruce Peterson. If you'd come up. Bruce is currently with the Northrop Corporation also. Bruce?
Thank you, Ted. It was a very gratifying experience for me to be on the HL10 program. Very seldom does an individual have an opportunity to follow an airplane right from its very birth to first flight. But I was fortunate enough to be on the selection board to select Northrop as a contractor, participated in a lot of the design studies, flew the simulator back at Langley Field, worked on the cockpit design and a lot of the systems design, did many hours of simulation, and was fortunate enough to make the very first flight. That's a test pilot's dream to be able to do that. Unfortunately, in fact, the first flight of the HL10 was one of the most memorable flights I had that ended successfully. John made a lot of good points on management. One of the things that allowed us to do these kind of programs was higher management was able to take the risk. We were able to get good people to work on the program and allowed us as test pilots to go out and investigate these futuristic aircraft. Not always successfully, but the management did take that risk. So I think the dedication ought to be to those people that allowed us to do this kind of work, and those people that did the work on the vehicles, and engineers, and those people who participated in making this lifting body program a very success, and obviously it led to the development of the space shuttle. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. If Bill Dana would come up, please. Bill's got a speech written.
That's because I can't remember what it was I was going to say. It's certainly a pleasure for me to be part of a ceremony honoring the HL-10. The HL-10 was a well-designed airplane with good gliding performance and excellent handling qualities. As Ted said earlier, it was one of 4 lifting entry shapes that flew here in the 1960s and 70s. And as Ted also said, it flew the highest and fastest of all 4 shapes. He didn't mention that this was the first lifting body to achieve supersonic flight. But the real legacy of the lifting body program is the space shuttle, which lands with no engines. It was originally planned for the space shuttle orbiter to carry into space with it 4 jet engines. After re-entry, those engines would be extended from the payload bay, started, and used during a power-on approach and landing. With the success of the several lifting bodies, NASA came to accept the power-off landing as suitable for the space shuttle. The space shuttle was built without landing engines, at a saving of some 30,000 pounds of orbiter weight, and with a reduction in gross liftoff weight of the space shuttle of 1 million pounds. Ted asked me to keep it short, and that's really all I have to say. In closing, I would like to recognize just a few key players in the HL-10 program. First, Gene Love and Bob Rainey of NASA Langley, who developed the configuration, and Bob Lovett and Charlie Russell of NASA Ames Dryden, who were the chiefs of the maintenance crew. And last, Milt Thompson and Dale Reed, also of Ames Dryden, who were the architects of the manned lifting body flight research program. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. You stole the rest of my speech. I said earlier that we were unable to arrange for the other pilots to be here. However, we do have 2 letters which I would like to share with you. The first is from Jerry Gentry, and there's a little note, a cryptic note on the front of his letter that says, "Milt, per discussion, attached for whatever use. I really wanted to be there, but I was afraid my car might get painted some crazy color again." For those of you who don't know, Jerry Gentry had a vehicle he drove back and forth to work, and one time when he was not in view of his automobile, they painted it a beautiful zinc chromate color and pasted flowers all over it. And they don't do that anymore around here. Jerry's letter says, "I sincerely regret that I am unable to attend the HL-10 lifting body dedication and share the momentous experience with my many friends at Dryden. Providing a place of honor for the HL-10 is especially appropriate for many reasons. First, in my recollection, the HL-10 was the best performing and the most honest of our stable of lifting bodies. Second, it recognizes the many contributions the lifting body program made to the space shuttle. And last, and perhaps most important, it is a fitting and lasting tribute to the professionalism, expertise, and innovativeness of the men and women of the NASA Flight Research Center, who some 30 years ago had the forethought, persistence, and ingenuity to get the lifting body program off the ground. It was a pleasure and an honor to have been a member of the NASA AFFTC lifting body team. I wish I could share this occasion with all of you. Congratulations on the HL10 restoration and its symbolic recognition of a super team effort. All best wishes, Jerry. Second letter, which we just received this morning from Pete Hoig, says, Dear Milt, thank you for your phone call last month. It was really good to talk to you again. I appreciate very much your invitation to participate in the HL10 ceremony. I would like very much to be there, but it is just impossible. Please extend my regards and best wishes to all those attending the ceremony. Being part of the joint NASA Air Force lifting body program was one of the high points of my life and one which still brings back fond memories. As I told you on the phone, I will be returning this summer to the Antelope Valley as part of the McDonnell Douglas contingent on the National Aerospace Plane Program. While we will be working out of Plant 42 in Palmdale, I expect to get up to NASA both to see everyone and as part of my NASA responsibilities. Again, best wishes to all. Please send me photos of the ceremony. Thanks. Sincerely, Pete Hoig. As many of you may know, the HL10 was at one time on loan to a Southern California Aerospace Museum. During that loan period, the vehicle fell from its mount and was severely damaged. NASA asked the National Air and Space Museum of the Smithsonian Institution for permission to reacquire and restore the HL10. In case you don't know, the Smithsonian Institution has title to all experimental research vehicles. So the vehicles actually are owned by them, and we have to make arrangements to put them in other places. The institution graciously agreed and further acknowledged that the HL10 be restored to its rightful place of honor at Dryden, where it was flown. There are many people who worked very hard during this reacquisition and restoration. They did a fantastic job, as you can see from the vehicle that's back here. The entire top of this vehicle was destroyed when it fell from its mount. It looks like it's ready to fly again right now. These people epitomize Dryden's can-do approach and deserve much thanks. I would like to introduce them at this time. Nancy Lovato, who worked the reacquisition with the Smithsonian. Jerry Reedy, who headed the restoration team. And that team consisted of Keith Ness, Roger Lynn, Stephen Blank, Don Whitfield, Ed Swan, Bob Anderson, Bill Zawalski, and Richard Cordes. And Bob Sawyer, who has left NASA but had a significant role in its restoration. All of us thank each and every one of you for your efforts. To honor this team and all their hard work, we have a special plaque with their names engraved, which will be located on the identification marker. Now, even though Bill has already recognized two individuals, I would like to re-recognize them, and these are two pioneers in the lifting body program. Dale Reed, who did the early conceptual studies that led to the flight program, who's back here, and Milt Thompson, who is our chief engineer and was the first man to fly a lifting body, and that was the wooden M2F1, and Milt can tell you some real stories about that. Being towed down the lake bed in a souped-up Pontiac. And I'll just add one other thing which Milt won't probably appreciate, but that is he has the best job of anybody in the world. Milt has absolute authority and no responsibility. And if you don't believe me, just go around and ask people. It would not be appropriate to close this ceremony without acknowledging the entire HL10 project team and they are seated in front. If they would stand, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. I'm going to ask Milt if he will come up and help me dedicate the HL10. I will tell you in advance that the marker we have here is not the final one, but in keeping with the spirit of the lifting body program, we're starting out with a plywood granite rock. So, Milt, if you will come up here, please, we will unveil this. Roger says this will work. Okay. This, of course, will be replaced with the real stone when it arrives. The marker that's, the plaques that are on there, as I said, recognize the restoration team and also the flight crew for the HL10 vehicle. Finally, I would like to thank all of you for attending. I'm very pleased to be one of the Dryden team and a part of what I believe is the greatest place in the world. If the participants will stay for a while, we would like to get some photographs. And for those people who would like to tour the facility and see what we're flying today, Cal Jarvis will be available, and we can meet at the ISF building down here, and we will get people on tours. And at this point, I declare this ceremony closed. Thank you all very much for coming.